right? So the performance tuning scenario, locking, blocking, deadlock, you heard it all the time. I'm pretty sure you've heard it before. Locking is, I feel like, the basic concept to understand blocking and deadlocks, and also everything else related to like query related issues. I feel like this is the very basic, minute detail of how things work. Okay, so locking is an essential mechanism for allowing multiple users to access and operate on a data in a way that avoids inconsistencies in that data. እንዳልኳችሁ ቅድም አንድ ትራንዛክሽን ራን አድርጎ ሌላ ትራንዛክሽን መጥቶ ያንን ቴብል ወይ ያንን ዴታ ያንን ፔጅ access ሊያደርግ ሲል we need to have locking. You guys, in a SQL server, you need to have locking. SQL server locking የለውም ማለት ምን ማለት ነው? Concurrency is not acid property ያልነው ይሄ consistency ያልነው all those things are not happening on that database ማለት ነው. Locking is a property that you need to see. You need to see locking. Okay? Locking ካላያችሁ ቅድም ያየነውን consistency ልናይ አንችልም። እኔ መጥቼ update ሳረግ አበበም በቀለም ሁሉም everybody is going to go ahead and update the same row at the same time. If locking የሚባለው concept ከሌለ ማለት ነው. This creates problems, right? I mean, whose data is correct? ማለት የመሀሊት data ነው? Like how do you have these checks and balances if you don't have locking? So locking is a very, very important aspect of the whole entire SQL server. All right. So locking is designed to help support the asset properties of our transactions so that our data stays consistent. Just what I said just now. Locking is the activity that occurs when a SQL Server session takes ownership of a resource prior to performing a particular action on that resource, such as reading or updating. Could be inserting as well. Locks are a good and necessary database mechanism. What do we mean by ownership? Ownership ማለት በቃ basically when that query runs, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and talk like in database connect ላደርግ ነው. Okay, so I'm going to take some kind of ownership on the database. Okay, locking alalkum, don't confuse it yet. And then you're going to go down to granular metal. Okay, SQL Server locking uses what we call a hierarchy. Hierarchy ማለት ከላይ ወደታች እየወረደ granular እያነሰ ያችን ሮ ሄዶ ሎክ ያደርጋል። ኦኬ መጀመሪያ database wide. So database wide ላይ መጀመሪያ ሄዶ shared lock ያወጣል. We'll talk about it later, meaning everybody else can also connect, but hey, it's telling ቅድም ያልኳችሁ SQL Server መጀመሪያ አርኪቴክቸሩን ስናይ transactional manager አለ. It's telling that transaction manager እዛ ውስጥ ያለውን ላኮቹን concatenate የሚያደርጉ like orchestrate የሚያደርገውን part is telling it, hey, watch me. I'm about to go ahead and connect to this database, okay? So it goes and does a shared ምንለውን hierarchy አለ። መጀመሪያ database ጋር ሄድና database ላይ it takes some kind of lock. I don't want to call it a lock, but it kind of flags it, meaning, hey, I'm connecting, okay? ከዛ ቀጥሎ ደግሞ, hey, look, now I'm going to go to this table. All right, ይሄንን table ካገኘው በኋላ and then now I need to go to the specific page in the buffer pool. ቅድምም ብያቸዋለሁ buffer pool ውስጥ ምን አለን? We have data pages, right? So በመጀመሪያ ደረጃ before I even go here, I want to make sure that you guys understand what pages are, what extents are. Okay, so let me just go ahead, even if we stop here, I don't even mind, but I want to make sure that you understand this concept. I'm going to use paint for this. All right. Okay. So you have a table. I'm a very horrible drawer, you guys. This doesn't even look like a table, but just think of it as a table. All right. So here's a table. Here's your table. So let's say this is students. All right. All right. Perfect. You get the idea. All right. Okay. All right. You know what? I feel bad. Let me just finish this. All right. Students. All right. So student ላይ let's say we have, non-clustered index ፈጥረናል, clustered index ፈጥረናል, different things. So አንድ ቴብል ሁለት አይነት ፔጆች አሉት። ኦኬ እነዚህ ፔጆች ናቸው በፈር ፑል ውስጥ የሚቀመጡ። ቴብሉ እንዳለ አይደለም የሚመጣው guys. Okay, there are pages that would come like ከኋላ SQL Server engine ላይ ወይም storage ላይ ሲቀመጥ it gets it as different things. Let me just explain what those are. Okay, so there are what we call pages. Okay, page አለ. This is a page. እያንዳንዱ page የየራሱ header አለው so አንድ page header all right and page is 8 kilobytes okay one page this is what we call a page and there's another concept that I want you guys to understand there's what we call extent የምንለው ነገር ደግሞ አለ extent is a group of pages okay so two ይሄ ሁሉ ለአንድ table ነው all right depending on how much data is on this table ይሄ ሁሉ ለአንድ let's just say just needs 4 all right this is extent is 8 pages okay extent ይባላል ይሄ all right እያንዳንዱ ይሄ ሁሉ 8 ነው 8 kilobytes can be 8 kilobytes ናቸው ሁሉም all right it has 8 extent የምንለው ደግሞ 8 ፔጆችን ያጠራቀመ ነገር ደግሞ extent ይባላል okay this is how things are stored in the storage system እናንተ mdf ldf ስትሉ this is how they're saved you guys all right so these are what we call data pages okay data pages okay pages all right and then we have what we call index pages all right index pageዎችም same way index pageዎች የራሳቸው የሆነ እያንዳንዱ ፔጅ አለው meaning እዛ ላይ የምትፈጥሩት clustered index የሚሆን non clustered index እነሱም SQL server ላይ የራሳቸውን ፔጅ ይዘው ይቀመጣሉ so አንድ query መጥቶ data ሲያነብ and we're putting it in the buffer pool right this is index pages p ረዘም ላድርጋችሁ it looks like an id you get the point okay so header አላቸው ሁሉም እዛ ላይ እንዳልነው ይሄም የራሱ የሆነ header where you put the metadata I'm going to explain this briefly ብዙም አላወራበትም እዚህ ላይ just so you understand what we mean by lock ስናወራ ሎኮቹ ሲወሰዱ የተለያዩ ኦብጀክት ላይ ነው የሚወሰዱት okay so one of the lock mechanism lock ሲወሰድ page የምንለው is one page of this table ይሄ table depending on how many kilobytes it is አንድ page ላይ ብቻ ፊት ሊያደርግ ይችላል if it's too many data it can be in one extent ሙሉ ሊሞላ ይችላል if it has millions of rows millions of data it can be stored in a lot of extents okay SQL server extentን የሚጠቀመው ለምንድን ነው why does it put እነዚህን ዴታዎች together like this to data fragmentation የሚለውን ለመክ so SQL server it needs contingency ይፈልጋል all right so አሁን እኔ መጥቼ የሆነ ዴታ ማንበብ ብፈልግ እዚህ ፔጅ ጋም እዚህ ፔጅ ጋም እዚህ ጋር ኤክስተንትም ያለ እዚህም ኤክስተንት ጋር ያለ እዚህም ኤክስተንት ጋር ያለ ፔጅ ሄዶ ማንበብ አይፈልግም SQL server this is called fragmentation what SQL server wants to read is from ከአንድ ኤክስተንት ላይ ሄዶ ቢያነብ ይሻለዋል okay this is why we have extents pages basically means የቴብሉ minute level of how it is stored in the data page mdf ላይ ሲጻፍ ቴብሉ ራሱ አይደለም ሄዶ የሚቀመጠው በፔጆች ይከፋፈላል okay አንዱ ቴብል alright በፔጆች ይከፋፈልና አንዱ ቴብል ግን ስንት ነው በኪሎባይት ነው it's not a number of rows it's how many kilobytes those each rows are containing እነዛ ኪሎባይቶች በምንድን ነው የሚወሰኑት by your data type your if you have blob ለምሳሌ like it's you're storing pictures images in the database እነሱ ትላልቅ ኪሎባይት ይወስዳሉ so this table አሁን እንደዛ blob ምኑ ወይም very large data እነዛ ነገሮች ሴቭ የሚያደርግ ከሆነ it's going to have so many extents all right extent is a collection of pages okay 8 of them all right SQL server በአንድ ላይ እንደ 8 ጋዘር የሚያደርግበት ምክንያት ምንድነው SQL server ዳታ ሲያወጣ it wants it to be contingent ጎን ለጎን እንዲሆን ነው የሚፈልገው it doesn't want it to be እንዲዘበራረቅበት አይፈልግም because fragmented እንዲሆን so it won't be all over the place okay ስለዚህ ይሄ this aspect of the SQL server backend is what we call the resources that get locked a page could just be የኛ ያቺ የምንፈልጋት ነው እዚህ ፔጅ ላይ ካለች we take a row lock okay ያቺ just row id lock መጀመሪያ ግን መጥቶ page lock ይወስዳል እቺን ኤክስፕሌን አደርግላችኋል how this works I don't want to bombard you ተመልሰን እዚህ ኢሜጅ ላይ ይመጣል even though it looks weird I apologize for that of course okay so let's go back to locking ነገርኳችሁ so now that we're done with this I'm going to go back you guys I'm going to go back to that extent page and explain it further for now I just wanted to give you an idea okay ቅድም ያልኳችሁ እዛ በፈር ፑል ላይ ይቀመጣል ስላችሁ I just want you to think of it as ሲቀመጥ በፈር ፑል ላይ አንድ ዴታ it's sitting as a page okay ፔጆቹ ናቸው እዛ ላይ ፑል እየተደረጉ የሚመጡት alright maybe we're pulling half of the የዛን ቴብል half of data እነዛ አስፈላጊዎቹ ፔጆቹ they come and sit in the buffer pool ቅድም data page ስላችሁ that's what I mean by data page okay index የሚያነብ ከሆነ ደግሞ it goes and takes data from the index page ያ table if it's index it goes and takes data from the index page ቅድም header ያልኳችሁን አይዲያ አትርሱ አሁን እናወራታለን let's talk about lock resources here we are all right እዚህ ጋር ከመምጣቴ በፊት I wanted to explain what a page is what an extent is you know row ID key we'll talk about these okay so SQL Server አሁን በኋላ ላይ ሎክ አድርጌ ያሳያቸዋለሁ how these come up when you guys are like you know and the table look አድርገን እናያለን how this comes about okay but for now let me just explain this high level wise okay so these are the resources that we have are here row id የሚባል አለ key የሚባል አለ page አለ extent አለ table አለ database አለ I do not want to confuse you guys that's why I wanted to explain this but we'll go over them row id ማለት row identifier used to lock a single row within a table so SQL Server ቅድም ብያችኋለሁ object id ስል ሰምታችሁኛል ማስተር ውስጥ የሚቀመጡ እያንዳንዷን ነገር SQL Server locks እያንዳንዷ row የራሷ የሆነ id አላት እያንዳንዱ object የራሱ የሆነ id አለው okay object what are objects an object can be an index an object can be a table an object can be a store procedure an object can be a view these are called objects in a SQL Server okay so ቅድም እያንዳንዱ ነገር SQL Server viewን በስም አይደለም እዛ sys tables ላይ or sys objects ላይ የሚያስቀምጠው SQL Server ያንን ሲያስቀምጥ እያንዳንዷ ነገር የራሷ የሆነ object ID አላት that is how it puts it forget the object okay SQL Server እያንዳንዷ row የራሷ የሆነ ID እንዲኖራት አድርጎ ያስቀምጣል okay this usually maybe like when you guys talk about row ID lookup, key lookup ምንላቸው ነገሮች ሲመጡ you guys will understand it more okay but usually our row ID የምታዩት when the table ላይ ምንም index ከሌለ if it's a heap table we call that a heap table heap table meaning ዝም ብሎ በቃ like it's just there's no indexing there's no way of sorting that table ያ table በA በB በላስት ኔም አልተጻፈም it's just ዝም ብሎ exist እያደረገ ያለ table we're just inserting data into it there's no way of sorting that okay ዝም ብሎ የተቀመጠ table is called heap table that means it has no indexes on it so when a SQL Server wants to read data wants to lock a row on a table like that it takes out a row ID lock on it. That resource that it locks is the row ID. This will come up locus ሄዳችሁ run ስታደርጉ row ID ምትል ታያላችሁ. That is why the row ID is. That means ያ table does not have any key. All right? Key ምንድነው? That table has an index. That table has a clustered index on it. That table has a primary key on it. So that table is sorted in some type of way on the database. So እነዚያ ልክ የዛን ቴብል የሆነች ስፔሲፊክ ሮ ለሆነ ሎክ ማድረግ ሲፈልግ ያችን የዛ ቴብል ኢንዴክሱን ሎክ ማድረግ ሲፈልግ it does a row a key lock ይወስዳል on an index. So let me explain this to you in a simple way. Indexዎች this will be explained but like in a high level way basically ቀደም SQL Server ምን ብያላችሁ execution plan ሲያወጣ it chooses different ways it chooses to use an index it chooses basically እዚህ table ላይ index ካለ I want to go use sorted በሆነው method because it's easier to find data right first name last name ምናምን ካላችሁ በfirst name sort ከተደረገ even እሷን ተጠቅሞ እንኳን it will try to gather data because it's somehow sorted ምንም አይነት index የለውም ማለት is going to go everywhere to fetch data from that specific table okay ስለዚህ a row ID is when you are locking a specific row on a table a key is when we're locking a specific key on an index that table underlining table ያንን key ሎክ ያደረግንበት ምክንያት table is that means it is sorted in some kind of way ማለት ነው let's go to the page. It could also take a page locks. It could be a data page. ቀደም ብያቸዋለሁ ሁለት አይነት ፔጆች ሁለት አይነት ብያቸዋለሁ. It could also be an index page. ሁለት አይነት ፔጅ አንድ ቴብል ላይ ኢንዴክስ ስትፈጥሩ you are creating an index page. Okay? አንድ ቴብል ላይ index ከሌለው you don't no need to have an index page. You just have a data page on it. Okay? So you can take a page, እዚህ page resource lock ልታረጉ ትችላላችሁ ማለት ነው. All right, so maybe now you're fetching data over a sort of like the whole column in የፈለኩት. So many columns that I need from my data. So now I need to lock an extent. All right, የቴብሉን ግማሹን ሎክ ማድረግ ፈልጊያለሁ because the amount I'm using, maybe I'm using a range የሆነ row, meaning ከዚህ እስከዚህ ያለውን row የሆነ ነገር አርግ ብየዋለሁ. So I will take a range lock and then kind of try to access that data that way. That's the kind of lock we call an extent. Extent ማለት that means it needs to use all the extents, okay? All the extents of the data page. ቅድም ያሳየኋችሁ እዛ ላይ all the extents of the data page ይጠቀማል ማለት ነው። ሎክ ያደርጋል ማለት ነው. It's locking this whole thing. So it can just lock this, just the page. It can just lock this. It can lock just one row in here. And the data page, it can just lock one row and the ID. And the index page as well. Okay, this is how the lock mechanism works. All right, we're gonna talk about this a little bit later. So let's keep going. Table lock. ደግሞ is the resource table ራሱ locked ሊደረግ ይችላል. This is the entire table including all the data and index. table እንዳለ ሎክ አረጋችሁት ማለት no part of that table is accessible, meaning all the extents, all the pages, data page all the extent, all the pages on index lock ተደርገዋል ማለት ነው. Okay, ይሄ ሎክ ተደረገ ማለት nobody else can access that table but that specific transaction ያንን ሎክ ያወጣው transaction, meaning ያንን ሎክ hey ሎክ ማኔጀር ለሎክ ማኔጀሩ hey now I'm going to go ahead and lock this table ብሎ ሎክ ያደረገው ሎክ ማኔጀሩ ሄዶ ያንን ሎክ ያደረገለት ያ specific transaction can only access that table. All right, and then you can also lock a database. ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ usually database locks are when we're taking snapshots, transactional replication ላይ ሰርታችሁ ወይም አይታችሁ የምታውቁ ከሆነ or if you know what a replication is, read on it የማታውቁ ሰዎች read on that, write it down right now. Transactional replication ላይ there's this part called snapshot የሚወሰድበት part አለ which basically takes the picture of the table as is or the article as is. As it's doing that, it takes a lock on the whole entire table. Or if you're doing the whole entire table matarokon, it takes a schema lock on the whole entire table. It locks the whole entire table. All the tables existing in a database. Database ብቻውን ደግሞ lock የሚያደርግ አንድ transaction ጠሪ ብትሉኝ a restore transaction ቀደም እንዳልኳችሁ. The database is pretty much inaccessible for everybody else, but that restore transaction that is happening as I'm restoring ማለት ነው. So going over this again, okay? SQL Server locking hierarchy አለው. It just doesn't go and lock ዝም ብሎ ከመሬት ተነስቶ it's not just go ahead and lock የሚፈልጋትን ሮ ብቻ ሄዶ lock አያደርግም. There's a hierarchy. መጀመሪያ it tells the lock manager. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take out the shared lock here. I'm going to say I'll take an intent lock. Once we talk about what intent locks are, you'll start to understand what I'm talking about. And then where do if it needs to update this row ID, it will take an exclusive lock on that specific row and then says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and update this specific row on this table. So hierarchy አለው ከዚህ ጀምሮ ነው ሎክ ማድረግ የሚጀምረው. Does it necessarily lock? Does it lock everything? How does it work? We'll talk about it later. Okay, ግን intent እያለ meaning it's telling the lock manager, hey listen, ዴታቤዙን መጀመሪያ shared lock አደርጋለሁ. Okay, like listen, I'm going to do that. ቴብሉ ላይ I'm going to take an intent lock. Intent lock mean እዚህ ቴብል ላይ የምሰራው ስራ አለ intent ይልና ግን ምን አይነት intent ነው ያለ? Okay, is that an exclusive or is it a shared intent? Shared intent ከሆነ ማለት እዚህ ቴብል ላይ I'm going to run a select statement. Why does it have to do that? Why does it have to take index? Intent ለምንድነው ማድረግ ያለበት? Why would it do that? ይሄ ምን መሰላችሁ? ላክ ይሄ ላክ ማኔጀር ያልኳችሁ ይሄንን ላኮች ማኔጅ የሚያደርገው part of the transactional manager ሌሎች ትራንዛክሽኖች ይመጣል let's say እኔ አዛም ኢንቴንቴን አሳይቼ እየመጣው ነው right intent like I have an intent here I have an intent here okay now I'm here like now I'm here let's just say here there's no index let's just say row id እየመጣው ነው so as I'm trying to update this I want to take an exclusive lock here so I am telling the lock manager listen ሄጄ የሆነች update ማረጋት የሆነች row አለች watch this እያለ እየነገረው ነው telling the intent to the lock manager so if there is another transaction that wants to come and lock the whole entire table, it can't because there is የሆነች row update እያደረገ እንደሆነ SQL server ይነግረዋል I mean that transaction ነግሮታል ለማ ለlock manager so the lock manager is going to be like hold on you need to wait so ya query would either fail or would either wait there ቁጭ ብሎ black ሆኖ ይጠብቃል until this runs so ቁጭ ብሎ ኢንቴንቱን እያሳየ ይቀመጣል ያኛው which the one that has to lock the whole entire table as transaction one እዚህ ጋር rowan update እያደረገ ያኛው ሁለተኛው ትራንዛክሽን ቴብሉን እንዳለ አፕዴት የሚያደርግ ከሆነ ቁጭ ብሎ has to wait until this is done updating you can't do anything right as I'm updating this do not do anything because ለቴብሉ በቃ ከቴብሉ ላይ ix የምትል ምልክት ትኖራለች በቃ እንደዛ ብላችሁ አስቡት intent to exclusively intent አለኝ በኋላ ላይ እዛ ሄጂ አፕዴት ማረገው row id አለ ስለዚህ እዛ ቴብሉ ላይ ምልክት gets mark that table so anything else that tries to access that table እዚህ hierarchy ድረስም አይወርድም SQL server does not have to check anything else በቃ there is something አለ እዛ ጋር ሎክ ሊያረግ የተቀመጠ all right so we'll continue about that now let's talk about the kind of locks አሁን shared intent ምላቸው ምን እንደሆኑ let's talk about them briefly all right so lock modes okay so there is different types of lock models and there's intent schema bulk exclude update share the most important ones that I want you to understand are the shared locks I want you to understand what they are the exclusive locks intent locks okay ሌሎቹን maybe if you want to read on it if you want to watch videos you know it gives you a wholesome understanding but I just want to explain this today for us because if I go deeper it's gonna but I left this slide for you guys so you can read through it all right so let's talk about shared locks. Shared locks are used for operations that do not change or update data, read-only operations such as select statements. So shared lockage usually meaning I'm about to go ahead and select shared lockage basically ሌሎች ላኮች ሲመጡ oh you can always if you see an s that table like if a query a transaction that marks that database as shared meaning everybody else can come in shared lock database ላይ ከወጣ hierarchyውን በኋላ ላይ ያሳያችኋለሁ everybody else can come in so let me show you a little hierarchy that I have before I even say anything okay so ያን ሁሉ explain ከማድረግ let's see what it looks like this is a simple query I'm running right let's update a row what do we need what kind of locks does this transaction carry all right so I'm doing an update set address line 1 to this where address id equals 2 like I'm literally doing is ይሄን address line address id-ውን address line ቀይርልኝ where address id equals 2 I'm telling SQL Server this is what I'm saying I want to update a specific row but look at the lock hierarchy this is what hierarchy ቅድም ያልኳችሁ ይሄንን ነው ይሄ lock manager okay look ይሄ query ሲመጣ lock manager the first thing it does is it goes and takes out a shared lock for this query so ይሄ query run ሲያደርግ ከኋላ ላይ ምን DMVዎች run ብታረጉ you will see for this specific session እነዚህ ሁሉ ላኮች ወጥተው ታያቸዋላችሁ meaning እነዚህ ሁሉ ላኮች you would see them when you are running this query which I'll show you in a little bit later if I'm running this and I run this DMV, which I'll give you in a little bit later as well. Yanin Ransari, you will see this also surfacing. እነዚህን ታያቸዋላችሁ as a lock. Okay, you'll be like, hey Mahi, ለምንድን ነው ይሄ ብቻ የማይታየው? Because of the intent locks. SQL Server lock manager ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ it shows its intent what to do. Okay, so መጀመሪያ it takes a shared lock, meaning everybody else can go ahead and access this database. Okay, anybody select statement which minimeta shared lock is compatible with everything. Just come in. Like everybody can connect, everybody do what it does. ግን እያንዳንዷ transaction እዛ ላይ የምትመጣው ሁሉም shared ሆኗል። ክፍት ነው. That means it's able to be connected to. So the next one is over the table. ቴብሉን ራሱ ይሄድና it shows intent exclusive, meaning I intend to exclusively change something on this database, on this table. I intend to do this. እያለ ነው. So any other transaction now knows. ይሄንን say, oh, okay. So there is an intent to update a specific ይሄንን ለማድረግ አለ. Okay, fine. All right, let's go granularly ደግሞ እንውረድ. All right. Let's say እዚህ ጋር ይሄ ካለ ቴብሉ ሎክ የሚያደርግ ትራንዛክሽን ከመጣ it won't run. All right, because this right here unable to ምናምን የሚል የሆነ ኤረር አለ ይመጣላችኋል. It would say ቴብሉን ሎክ ማድረግ አችልም. Not right now, there are other transactions going on. Okay, wait till until that transaction is done ይለዋል. Because right here just by looking at this ይሄን ሁሉ እዚህ ድረስ ሳይወርድና ቼክ ሳያደርግ አለ የለም ብሎ እዚህ ጋር ሳይመለስ እዚህ ጋር ያለውን ይችን ኢንቴንታይና ያኛው ሁለተኛው ትራንዛክሽን ይችን ቴብል አፕዴት ቴብሉን እንዳለ አፕዴት ማድረግ የፈለገው the whole entire table አፕዴት ማድረግ የፈለገው ትራንዛክሽን it gets either an error, a resource error ያገኛል, or it fails because there is transaction that is intently update ሊያደርግ ያሰበ ማለት ነው. Okay, and then ይሄድና ፔጁ ላይ right ቅድም ፔጅ ብያቸዋለሁ ፔጁ ላይ ያለውን እንዳለ ዳታ አይደለም የሚቀይረው it needs a specific row. ያቺ ፔጅ እዚህ ፔጅ ላይ ነው ያለው ይሄ አድረስ ያለው ይሄኛው ይቺ ሮ ያለችው እዚህ ፔጅ ላይ ነው። ያንን ፔጅ ሄዶ ፈልጎ ካገኘ በኋላ ምንም በመጠቀም ኦብጀክት አይዲውን ሄደር የምንለው እዚህ ጋር is what it is. ሄደሩ contains the object ID. ቅድም ያልኳችሁ ለዚህ ነው ቅድም the whole architecture ያሳያችሁ ኦብጀክት አይዲ ምናምን ሲባል በኋላ query lock ስናይ ኦብጀክት አይዲ ምናምን ሲል ስታዩ ሄደሩን እያነበበ ነው. it selects from the header. እያንዳንዱ ኦብጀክት እያንዳንዱ ሄደር ስም አለው እያንዳንዱ database ሆነ table everything has a header that contains the specific object ID of whatever that is. All right, so እዚህ ጋር ይመጣና and then on the specific page ይመጣና okay, here is I have another intent exclusive. IX ማለት exclusively I intend to exclusively to lock something. just exclusive ብቻ ከሆነ ፔጁን እንዳለ አፕዴት እያደረገ ነው. alright, ሎኩ ላይ exclusive ብቻ ካያችሁ ቴብሉ እንዳለ locked ነው. exclusive the table is exclusively locked. intent ማለት ግን እያንዳንዱ query ሲመጣ ይሄንን ያያል. this is the part it reads. Okay, so okay, intent, okay, maybe I can do something. Maybe I can go ahead and select statement. Maybe I can do this. Okay, so now we have this, right? We have the intent lock. So row agasimeta, the specific row is right here. It does an exclusive lock, meaning nobody else can touch this. Absolutely not. This means I am currently updating. I'm currently doing this. So please, everybody else stop. I'm updating this. So anything that wants to access the specific row cannot even touch it. Cannot see it, has to sit there and wait. Has to sit there and be blocked and wait. You can't even select from it. It has to sit there and wait. Okay, this is what we call by lock hierarchy. The hierarchy works like this. The lock manager እነዚህን ሁሉ ሎኮች ያወጣል for one specific transaction. And it happens for multiple transactions as well over different databases, over different tables, different objects. Okay, ስለዚህ አንድ update statement ሲመጣ this is it. አሁን ይሄንን usually this is ስታዩት may look like a lot, but his statement is very fast, right? ግን this is the lock mechanism it uses. This is how ያን ቅድም ያለውን ትራንዛክሽኖቹን keep ያደርጋል ያለው the way it gives the consistency is by locking these things. Okay, ቅድም transaction concurrency መጣ ማሂ የሆነ ሰው አፕዴት ሌላውም አፕዴት ቢያደርግ ምናምን ትላላችሁ and a small and inside and engine ላይ ግን it's completely granularly ሁሉ ነገር is being monitored. Okay, so እኔ እዛ ጋር መጥቼ ያችን አፕዴት ላደርግ ስል no, you can't take out a share lock, you can't take out an exclusive lock on this row. I'm sorry, somebody else is updating it. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and wait for me. You're going to sit there and wait until this is done. Okay, so once this is done, then you can come in. and have your own hierarchy just like this, and then you can go ahead and access that row if you want to update whatever you want to do. Okay, so like this is how the log hierarchy works. So now let's go back to reading what shared means. Shared ነገርኳችሁ. Shared ማለት any select statement can be and object ላይ s ካያችሁ that means it's being shared. That means anybody else, any select statement can go ahead and access it. All right, any select statement, that's fine. So but ያ select statement የት ነው የሚሄደው? So if you're selecting ቅድም ዴታቤዙ ላይ share አይተናል. If you're selecting from the other tables, oh, by all means go ahead, you're fine. That's why it's shared, right? You can go ahead, select whatever you wanted. You can update, you can do intent locks here, you can do whatever on any other tables, but you cannot go ahead and modify that specific page or that specific row that I want. ኢንቴንቴን እያሳየው መጥቻለሁ. I've been telling you ከላይ ጀምሮ that you cannot come. So እዚህ granular level ድረስ ራሱ አይደርስም SQL Server. it knows በቃ shared አድርጎ መጣ ያ ቴብል ጋር ሲመጣ oh shoot, okay, intent to update አለ. I'm going to sit here and wait. All right, I'm going to sit here and wait until this is done, whatever it is. All right, so and then I'm going to jump the update. I'm going to do the exclusive lock. Okay, this is used for data modification operations such as insert, update, and delete. Ensures that multiple updates cannot be made to the same resource at the same time. If there is an exclusive lock on a row, and transaction ብቻ ነው ያችን update ማድረግ insert anything, whatever it's doing, ያችኛዋን ኤክስክሉሲቭ ላክ ያወጣትን ያ ትራንዛክሽን ያወጣት ትራንዛክሽን ብቻ ነው ያችን ራን ማድረግ የሚችለው። no other transaction can take another exclusive lock እዛ ላይ. This is how SQL Server controls concurrent transactions on a granular level. All right, so intent ጋር እንምጣ ደግሞ. All right, intent is used to establish a lock hierarchy. The types of intent locks are intent shared, intent exclusive, and shared intent exclusive. So I'm not going to explain all of this. ግን ቅድም አይታችሁታል. intent shared ወጣ ማለት whatever ከታች የማነበው table ከታች የማነብ I'm just reading a row. I'm just doing a select statement. I'm not updating. So ቅድም ያየናት statement, basically this is just a select statement. Select something where id equals to እያልኩ ነው። እንደዚህ አይነት share ስበታ ix intent exclusive intent shared ትሆናለች. That means everybody else, you can come in and, read the table. You can come in and do whatever you need to do. It's fine. I'm just reading, ስለዚህ this is how it works, like the intent exclusive ያለው ቅድም somebody else, I think Sabla, you asked me earlier. This is how the intent shared, intent exclusive. Shared with intent exclusive, I don't want to get too deep into that. That's when the same transaction ከታች አንዱን ሮ አፕዴት እያደረገ እንደገና ደግሞ ከላይ የሚያነበው ነገር ሲኖር ነው። That's a little bit too much for you guys, I feel like. So I'm going to leave that out. But intent exclusive and intent shared for now, this is how the lock hierarchy works. All this to say, SQL Server, all these checks and balances happen when a lock is happening. Okay, so okay. I need to go. Yeah, let me go back to locking basic basis. All right, so locking basic rules. This is the basic look at the Saura Rastachkona rule of thumb ብያቸዋለሁ. Writers block readers and exclusive lock የተወሰደበት exclusive lock usually for what? For writing ብያቸዋለሁ. Basically for updating statements. So and table ላይ if there is or table ላይ or page ላይ እኔ table እላቸዋለሁ ከhigh level ላይ እንጂ don't be thinking the whole entire table. page ስል confuse እንዳላረጋችሁ ብዬ ነው። እነዛ ሮዎች ተከፋፍለው በፔጅ ተቀምጠዋል right? So በፔጅም አስቡት እንደዚህማ ራይዲንግ ባልኳቸው አስቡት. But when I say that specific, I'm updating something, I'm writing something to the specific row, nobody else can write into it at the same time. So if a transaction has read, which is a shared lock, which always takes out a shared lock, read transactions always take a shared lock, meaning everybody else can share in the sumo. I can share this. We can share this lock. It's fine. You can go ahead, even though I'm locking it lanab and nantametachu, you can read from the same table. It's fine. Okay. So a transaction has a shared lock on an item. The item can be read but not modified. Okay. If I'm reading read አድርጌ እስክጨርስ ድረስ an exclusive lock መምጣት አይችልም። ገባችሁ? I'm reading because I'm already in the process of select statement to run እያደረገ ነው pulling a lot of those rows, right? አሁን ቅድም በትንሽ column ነው ማሳያችሁ, but let's say I'm doing a select star on a millions of rows ያለው table ላይ I'm running it, so it keeps running, right? ብዙ tables run እያደረኩ ስለሆነ it's just going to keep running until it gets that data. While that is happening, የሆነ ሰው መጥቶ wants to update one of the rows, እዛ select ማድረጋቸው rows ላይ ሄዶ የሆነ ሰው update ማድረግ ቢፈልግ he can't. ያ transaction would run, you know, it would be like execute እያለ buffer ያደርግላቸዋል, but it's not going to be move forward. ያንን transaction ሄዶ update ሊያደርገው አይችልም. It will sit there and wait until የኔ read እኔ select star ብዬ ሚሊዮኖቹ rows ሪዛልቱን እስካገኝ ድረስ ያ የሚመጣው table cannot connect to that table, cannot update. Okay, if a transaction has write exclusive lock on an item, the item can be both read and modified by the same transaction. Exclusive lock and ቢወስድ like ቅድም እንዳልከው shared intent እያለ እዚህ ጋር ያሳያችኋል። shared intent exclusive እያለ ራሱ ላይ ራሱ ኮለም ላይ ራሱ እየወጣ if it's from the same transaction ነው። ታዲያ አንድ ትልቅ ትራንዛክሽን ቅድም ብያችኋለሁ ስቶር ፊቸር ላይ ኢንሰርት አለ፣ አፕዴት አለ፣ ምን አለ right? so ከላይ ያለው አንድ ቴብል ላይ ኢንሰርት እያደረገ ከሆነ እዚህ ጋር ደግሞ መጥቶ maybe I want to update another row, it can do that. It's the same transaction. It's not another extra transaction መጥቶ እቺን row lock ለማድረግ የሚፈጥር. It's within the same batch. It's within the same transaction. So when that happens, this exclusive lock can be shared when that happens. Okay, the item can be both read and modified by the same transaction. ማንበብም ይችላል modify ማድረግ ይችላል. From the same transaction though, not from an outsider transaction. Or outsider transaction read modify እየተደረገ ያለን read ማድረግ I mean read uncommitted ከተጠቀምን ቀደም እንችላለን ብለን right? modify እየተደረገ ያለውን read uncommitted ብለን ማውጣት እንችላለን. like ቅድም update ብዬ ያንን table ያንን transaction እያረኩት ነበር. read uncommitted ብዬ I was able to read uncommitted የነበረውን data, right? ያ ግን isolation level set ስላደረኩ ነው. set ሳላረግ አሳየዋችሁ when I was trying to pull data from update እያልኩኝ it's locked, right? I couldn't pull from it. That means exclusive lock እዛች row ላይ ስላደረገ even though I'm trying to ሌላም data ላይ ሌላ part of the row እኮ ሊሆን ይችላል. maybe I'm not specifically reading that specific row, ግን ያቺ lock just blocks the readers. ሪደሮቹ እንዳይመጡ ኮኔክት ማድረግ አይችሉም። ያቺ ኢንተንት እያልን ከላይ ያመጣናት even ሪደሮቹን ብላክ ታደርግብናለች coming from another transaction. Okay, if it's from the same transaction ቅድም ያልኩት shared intent ራሱ ላይ ያ ቴብል ላይ ራሱ በራሱ okay maybe I want to read ከላይ ያለውን ዳታ ደግሞ አምጥቼ እዚህ ጋር ደግሞ I want to see like የሚቀጥለው store procedure or የሚቀጥለው row ላይ I want to do some other joining or some other statement ካለ it can read from the same transaction ሆኖ ማለት ነው። Reads cannot conflict, so multiple transaction can hold read shared locks simultaneously on the same item. ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ read እና read, they're fine. You can read from the same table. Everybody can read from the same table. It's fine. Okay. Write exclusive lock gives one transaction exclusive access to an item. This is redundant again. Exclusive አለም ማለት ያ ነገር is exclusively locked. Okay. Transaction can upgrade a read lock to a write lock or downgrade a write lock to a read lock. This is depending on what kind of transaction you have. Again, እዚች concept I don't want to explain it, meaning እያነበበ ነበር. So meaning የሆነ transaction መጥቶ the first thing it did is the first part of the store procedure that run is the select statement. Select statement ካረገ በኋላ on the same table there is a specific update that it wants to run. ያ shared lock የወሰደውን updates to exclusive lock. But on the same table ከላይ select አረገና ያቺን ሮ ወጣት መጀመሪያ ከዛ በኋላ I want to go ahead and update it. So ቅድም ባሳያችሁ ትራንዛክሽን ከሆነ ይሄንን ቅድም ያሳያችሁን ትራንዛክሽን begin tran ብዬ ቢሆን ኖሮ የቅድሙን ትራንዛክሽን እዚህ ጋር begin tran ብዬ ቢሆን ኖሮና መጀመሪያ እዚህ ጋር select statement ቢኖረኝ ከዛ ይሄን update statement run ባረገው select statement is the first transaction that hit, right? So it's going to be shared. ከዛ በኋላ እዚህ ጋር መጥቼ ያቺን update ላረግ ስል it takes out an exclusive lock in the same transaction. So it can get upgraded. Shared የነበረውን ወደ exclusive ሊቀየርላችሁ ይችላል. Because okay ያነበብክ ነበር, oh now you want the same row, okay. So we can do that. But sometimes አሁን ይሄ መጀመሪያ shared አውጥቶ ነበር but if there is another transaction as it was a shared transaction ስለሆነ እዚህ ጋር shared አውጥተን ስለነበረ if there was another transaction that got in and is doing some kind of updates, this part would wait. All right, we will see some kind of slowness because የመጀመሪያው select statement shared ነበር ልክ ሄዶ exclusively ሊያወጣ ሲል oh shoot you can't because I'm sorry this other transaction is already updating that so you can't do that. So this aspect of the transaction is let me go back. Okay, so this is what we mean by upgrade ያደርገዋል ስንል ማለት ነው. Okay, commits and rollbacks release the locks. So yeah, transaction once it's committed and once it's locked, those once that once it's rolled back or it's committed እነዛ roll transactions release ይደረጋሉ ማለት ነው. You guys, I understand this concept is very can be very what is it called? Complicated. I know we already times 11 o'clock one and all, so I'm going to end the class little shorter, than I intended. Again, ማለት ነው. Read on this. All right. Tomorrow, the first thing we're going to talk about will be about this መጀመሪያ before I go to troubleshooting and how we get into this problems. Once you are, because now that you have the understanding that what this is, then if it's too much of ምንድን ነው complicated theory ከሆነባችሁ just understand what a shared and exclusive looks like because sometimes when you run those ያልኳችሁ DMVዎችን ስታዩ you'll see those. I want you guys to understand and be successful. ስራ ውስጥ ስትገቡ ያንን እነዛን DMVዎች ወይ management views run ስታረጉ ይሄንን ስታዩ I don't want you guys to be confused. I want you guys to understand what that means. Oh, S, okay. Mahish is oh, that's shared. Okay, so it's reading. So I want you guys to kind of collaborate that. This intent if it's a little bit too hierarchy በጣም ከሆነባችሁ you can jump it for now. Maybe ተመልሳችሁ ይሄንን ታዩታላችሁ or maybe I can send you some videos that may help you guys to understand this concept better. But for now, I'm going to adjourn the class for today. Because but like we're almost done. It's just going to be about deadlocks and locking which is the meat and potatoes. Concept understand ካደረጋችሁ we're not going to be it's not going to be a lot harder to explain እነዛን understand ለማድረግ. Okay, so I'll take last minute questions for today. And then ነገ ይሄንን ተመልሼ መጥቼ I'm going to explain to you guys more in a detailed intent. Okay, don't worry about it. If you're a little bit confused, I understand this could be a little bit confusing, so I get it.
እኔ ጥያቄ ሳይሆን ቴንክ ዩ ጥያቄ ነው ያለኝ